What is up, everyone? I am TST's the Mudman, and it's time to figure out what we are going to do this weekend in the Gods Unchained Weekend Ranked event. We are going to go over which gods are the most popular in the meta, the most popular archetypes for each god, as well as the best performing lists. But if you are craving even more weekend ranked information, then you've got to check out my teammate, the Professor's YouTube channel. There will be a link to his channel in the description of this video. The professor makes a video at the beginning of each week showing all the stats from the previous weekend, so you know like just how well like war did overall, light, deception, what have you. Really great information. Definitely recommend checking it out. But let's jump right into it. So, no surprise, nature and war are the two most popular gods, as they have been for quite some time. Deception has actually overtaken magic in the third slot, which makes sense. Deception's been performing pretty well. Like mid-rangey, aggressive order deception's been really good. Sleep deception's been pretty good. We got magic in the fourth slot, followed by death, and then light taking up the rear. Light has been the least popular god for a long time. So, you're going to run into nature most often, and nature is usually aggressive, mid-range nature. War is going to either be control war or aggressive war. Control war is definitely better, but aggressive war is way more common. Deception, we touched on a little bit. Deception can go a lot of different directions. More often than not, it's like an aggressive, order-themed, like valued generation deception deck. They're very strong. Magic is generally going to be like tempo spell magic. However, Portal Wrangler magic has been performing really, really well for the past week, so you might run into some Portal Wrangler magic. And then death is going to be most likely zombie death, but board wipe death is definitely death's strongest archetype, and light is always Zoolight. So, let's jump into some of the lists you might want to go with this weekend. Hey guys, before we jump into the deck list, I just want to hit you with this quick PSA. I've got a YouTube video right here showing off 3 nice decks for under $69. I got a nature deck, a war deck, and a deception deck. All 3 of these budget decks can totally hang in the weekend ranked event. But see, the point of these videos is to show off the best possible deck for each god, and the best possible decks tend to be a bit pricey. So if you're looking for a good deck that won't break the bank, check out this video. There will be a link to it in the description of this current video, and let's get back to it. Alright, so let's start things off with the most popular god. This is Nature, got an aggressive mid-range list made by the Professor. He came in 3rd place last weekend, and this deck has been doing really well. This is super similar to the aggressive mid-range nature decks we've been talking about for the past 13 weeks. You got great early game creatures, Pyramid Wardens, got a ton of stats, Marshwalkers, Black Jaguars. They get buffed by low-hanging fruits and Chirons. You've got great 2-mana removal tools and Canopy Barrage and Fey Flame Blade. Finian Fruitbear also buffs those early game creatures. Underbrush Boar, also excellent removal, great tempo tool. Celestial Stag, we talk about him every week, nature staple. Solid stats, Blessed is good. Generating resources, also good. Lightning Strike, obvious, single target removal. Selena is super good for removing all the confused, which, is convenient since so many of your creatures are confused. Then her 2 damage, every single turn is convenient for controlling the board, and she's difficult to remove with her ward and backline. Avatar of Nature, we have not been seeing in a lot of the most recent nature decks, but he's super good. Tons of stats, lots of healing. Must kill creature. Avatar of Nature is super good. Moose, he's big. Falling Star is good all the time. Giant Pangolin, big, removes a creature. He's another nature staple. Everybody knows why he's great. And then the final nature card is the Hunt, which is a nice little comeback mechanic. Board clear if you do lose the board. But yeah, all in all, Nature's been the most popular god because it's just very consistent, just great cards all down the curve. If you like playing Nature, then this is definitely the list for you. Now let's move on to War. Our War deck this week is the same style War deck we've been seeing for the last couple of weeks. This is mid-rangey Control War. It is War's strongest archetype because it's just good at everything. It's got decent early game creatures. It has great removal in the early game, mid game, and late game. It's got great relics. It has excellent board clears in Carnage Sweep and Soul Survivor. It has super powerful late game creatures in Hector, Demogorgon, Avatar. Tons of value in strength and numbers. We're going to go over this deck really quickly. We talk about this deck all the time. Check out some of the previous what to play over the weekend videos if you want more info on the Control War. But generally it's just good throughout the entire game. Grand Hall is amazing for defeating your like nature and light and often like magic opponents. It's just really good at everything, and it especially just beats the pants out of nature, and nature is the most popular god in the meta. So mid-range Control War is definitely a great choice for this weekend. Alright, now let's talk about Deception. Last week we were talking about Atlantean Deception as a budding new archetype, and wouldn't you know it, one of the best performing Deception decks this past week is this Atlantean Deception deck made by Defying Destiny. And this list looks really nice, just a great hybridization of like standard aggressive order deception with this little Atlantean package. It's got all the good aggro deception stuff you know and love. You got your strong early game creatures with your switch duelists and your armor lurkers. You've got your patient pickpockets and your hollows, as well as your Ludius Decadence for some like great value generation. You got your like early, or not early, your cheap removal tools like Hunting Trap, as well as Stone Skin Poison. You got your Dark Knives to apply pressure in the early game. And then we've got the Atlantean package. So you got your Shade Walker, which he snowballs every single turn, does tons of damage. He's you play him, you attack with him, you hide him with Orpheus Distraction. He's great. And you can give him a ward with your Phase Touch Golem, as well as +2/+2 and Twin Strike with your Boost Walker. And of course, you don't need to Boost Walker your Shade Walker. Boost Walker is great on any Atlantean. +2/+2 and Twin Strike is obviously great for going face and clearing the board, and those are things that you love doing as an aggressive deck. Also got the Wind-Up Roller in here to cycle through your deck, draw those Atlanteans, as well as get buffed by the Phase Touch Golem and Boost Walker. And the last important thing to note is the Rapture Dance, which is a real good inclusion for this meta. Nature is the most popular god. Nature has like Blade Flies often, and they always have Falling Stars, so they go wide all the time. So Rapture Dance is really powerful in the meta. And yeah, ultimately, I think this is a really great Deception deck. This player has played 72 games with an 83% win rate. The world at large has played 264 games with a 70% win rate, so this deck definitely wins. So if you want to play some Deception this weekend, if you like the Atlantean package, then this is definitely a great deck for you. Alright, now we're on to Magic, and over the past week, the best performing Magic archetype has been Portal Wrangler Magic. With the recent buff to Clear Mind God Power, Portal Wrangler Magic feels better than it ever has. And this deck is really good for two things. You'll be able to finish your weekend ranked event really quickly, and you can multitask. This deck literally plays itself, so if you are behind on a TV show, you can watch that. If you got to play your Gods Unchained, but you also really want to watch the local sports game, this is the perfect deck for you. If you don't know about the Infinite Portal Wrangler deck, let's go over the combo. So the first thing you got to note is Lost in the Depths. Your main strategy is find Lost in the Depths. Mulligan as hard as you can for the Lost in the Depths. If you don't get it in your opening hand, use your Clear Mind God Power and or all of your many 4C creatures to find Lost in the Depths as quickly as possible. When you get your Lost in the Depths, you play it on either an opponent's 1-mana creature or one of your own. It's the reason why you have 22 out of your 30 cards are 1-mana cards. You then blow up all those 1-mana cards, leaving you with only your Portal Wrangler combo. The Portal Wrangler combo, of course, being having a Portal Wrangler in your hand, playing 2 Warped Engineers to make him cost 0, cloning the 0-mana Portal Wrangler to give you 2 Portal Wranglers. Then your Portal Wrangler will generate you another Portal Wrangler. They cost 0. You fill up your entire board with Portal Wranglers, and then you kill them with your 2 Forms of Unity that deal 9 damage each. This deck is particularly good against slower decks. It has a slightly harder time against aggro decks, but with its new Clear Mind God Power, it gets the combo off very, very consistently by turn 5. So if your opponent can't beat you by turn 5, then you are going to fill up your entire board with a ton of creatures, deal a whole bunch of damage. This deck is fast, it's easy, it's effective. And let's jump into the other list. It's pretty much identical. The only difference is, instead of the Forms of Unity, it uses the Fermentari Researcher Plan. You've also probably noticed, You've also probably noticed the Jason. Jason is super unnecessary. I've played 14 games with this deck, and Jason's come up like once. It's just since you no longer protect your face with the Clear Mind God power, sometimes when you're playing against more aggressive decks, you have to trade a lot, and you start having fatigue issues, and Jason fixes the fatigue. But the only main difference is instead of Form of Unity to deal one big chunk of damage, you have Fermentary Researcher, which her effect is, after you summon a mystic creature, which the Portal Wranglers are, you deal 2 damage to a random enemy character, which is creatures or opponents. So you play your Researcher, you play your 5 Portal Wranglers, you deal 10 damage in increments of 2 to your opponent's board/face. I prefer this version mainly because there's a lot of aggressive decks. Aggressive decks usually can't beat you by turn 5, but they might be able to beat you by turn 6. So when you play your Fermentary Researcher into the Portal Wranglers, you're probably going to clear off enough of your opponent's board to not lose, and then you'll be able to, counter kill your opponent. Another cool aspect of the Fermentary Researcher is because of the nature of Portal Wranglers. When you start your combo with the Fermentary Researcher, you generate another Fermentary Researcher. So if your opponent leaves up the first one, you can play the second Researcher, and then every time you play a Portal Wrangler, it deals 4 damage, and that gets out of hand really quickly. And then the Jason's only here for anti-fatigue. It comes up very rarely. You definitely don't need the Jason, but he's cool. And another big aspect of the Fermentary Researcher, as opposed to the Form of Unity version, is Fermentary Researcher is just 1 card, whereas Form of Unity is 2 cards. So when you do blow up your entire deck, you can get your combo off faster. Yeah, and that is about it for the Portal Wrangler magic. So if you've got the cards, if you want to finish your weekend quick, if you want to multitask, then this is definitely the deck for you. Alright, next up we have Death. Just like the past whole bunch of weeks, the best Death archetype is Board Wipe Death. So we're not going to go over Board Wipe Death in too much detail. We've done that every week for the past 14 weeks, and this deck costs 2.2 ETH. So if you have the collection for this deck, you probably know how it works. The main difference between this Board Wipe Death deck and maybe some more standard ones is instead of the Apacry's monster Khopesh endgame, this has Polyhymnia. And since it doesn't have Khopesh, it's free to run Necroceptors, which I think is a really cool inclusion for Board Wipe Death. The best way to beat Board Wipe Death is to beat them early, be very, very aggressive. And a great way to fight aggression is with your own, early game creatures, as well as healing. And Necroceptor gets you at least a 1/1 zombie every single turn. Zombies can trade, zombies can heal. Seems like a great addition to Board Wipe Death, but besides that, super normal. Got sleep cards with Siren of the Grave and Canopy Quarter. Some great control cards, like in the early game with Blight Bombs, as well as Ava. You ramp up with your Fanatic. Got lots of card draw in here with the Flesh Binds, with the Sulfuric Rains, with the Burrowing Scarab, blah blah blah. And then you get to your board wipes in Apocalypse Now and End Times. So if you have the collection for Board Wipe Death and you are fine with spending hours and hours and hours on your weekend ranked event, you'll get lots of wins. And this seems like a great list if you're a fan of Board Wipe Death. All right, and last up we've got Zoolight. This is a fairly standard Zoolight list. The strategy for Zoolight is incredibly simple. You play lots of creatures in the early game. You buff them up with your Radiant Dawn. You buff one of those creatures up again with a Canonize, and if you haven't won yet, you buff up your other creatures with Asterius, you go face, and you win the game. You make lots of value trades, as many value trades as you can, because it is very important for Light to never lose the board. Light has essentially no comeback mechanics, so if it loses the board, it usually loses the game, which is probably why it's the least popular god. You can totally play Light if you want to. People are fairly successful with Light every weekend, but seems like a very feast or famine deck. I would not recommend Light, but if you do want to play it, this seems like a great list. And yeah, so let's jump into the conclusion. Okay, so now that we've gone over all the facts, we've done all the thinking, what is the conclusion? What's the best deck to play this weekend? Well, in my opinion, that would be Control War, mainly because the way it just beats up on nature, and nature is the most popular god. That being said, I think I'm gonna get wacky, do some multitasking with the Portal Wrangler magic. But whatever deck you play, make sure to have fun, tell us how you did in the TST Discord, and have a wonderful day. Hey you! Did you know that subscribing to the TST YouTube channel will increase your win rate by 6.9%? So what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. And while you're at it, equip Scythe to Harvest and attack the like button directly in the face. Bye-bye!